everyone. Welcome back to Beyond the Gate, our Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood podcast. I'm Megan.
And I'm Meg.
And we have some special guests today.
Yes, you can go ahead and introduce yourselves.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Lauren.
Yes, thanks for joining us. And we are talking about episode 52, Combined Strength.
Okay, yes. And in this episode, with the Philosopher's Stone in his possession, Alphonse fearlessly engages Pride and Kimblee. Elsewhere, the Armstrongs find themselves trapped between Sloth's onslaught and the guns of Central's troops.
Yes, and this covers manga chapters 92, With Everyone's Strength, and 93, Arch Enemy.
Yes, and before we get started, we have some questions for our guests.
Oh, no.
So who is your favorite character in the show?
So Alex here. My favorite character is, hands down, Ed. Mostly because I'm also short, and so I just kind of identify with that. Although I don't get as upset, but probably because I'm female, I don't get as upset about being called short, but I also get him. And then my second favorite is Alex Louis Armstrong, because beautiful, also share the same name, but that boy, he just sparkles every time, and I'm just like, that's legit.
Mm-hmm.
And Lauren here, as the engineer, I can't help but give a shout out to Winry and all of the different contraptions that she puts together and puts up with. And I definitely understand the moments of building something glorious and having the person immediately ruin it and be like, I just built that.
That's awesome.
Do you get as angry, though?
100%.
Okay. That's good to know for future reference.
Just don't be around her when she's got a wrench in her hand.
Yes, okay. And then, how long ago did you first watch Full Metal, and what was your thoughts on it?
How long ago was it? I know me and Lauren both started watching Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood together because Meg was like, hey, this is a cool show. And we were like, all right. And Lauren had already heard about it. And so, what is it, 4? No. Was it a year? No, it had been less than a year.
Oh, you haven't been friends for a year.
6 months?
When
did you move?
They started it February 12th at 2 p.m.
It's definitely exactly the point. She's stalking us.
Do you think Crunchyroll will tell me?
Possibly.
Probably not.
I don't know if it tells you when you watch things. I think you can just see the order of stuff.
My answer is actually a little bit more complicated. So FMA Brotherhood has followed me most of my life. And I have, no joke, memories of sitting there with my boyfriend just after college, watching a random episode or two. And so It's taken me years to put together the full storyline, but I've seen bits and pieces of it. And so it brings back memories of all the different phases in life.
Yeah.
Well, a few months ago. That's the answer.
We'll claim February 12th.
I like it.
All right. And what your thoughts? Liked it? Hated it? You're just here to bash the show.
Lots of Nazi undertones that were not super subtle, but definitely was not expecting that. I have to admit, I did really like it for being one of the rare animes I've actually fully watched. I really ended up liking it. It wasn't overly too dramatic, although there were a lot of points, but I think Winry and Ed and Al, that just dynamic just kind of made it for me. So yeah, I really liked it.
I definitely enjoyed it as well. It's definitely a classic for a reason, and why so many people have mentioned it or watched it or talked about it or checked it out. And it definitely had a lot more layers to it than I fully expected. I expected more like a Pokemon or Dragon Ball Z, where there's a slight arch to it, but not a lot of depth.
You know,
Having grown up watching
You think I
Pokemon, I can say I can't go back now because
right?
it's
You've
not
seen
as much
too
of a
many,
storyline.
too many good animes at this
I
point.
know.
I love you know me. Like, would I watch something? You realize I started watching this before getting to know you.
Kind of.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll talk about it offline.
Okay. And then, do you guys have a favorite anime? I know you just said you haven't watched too many all the way through, but
I'm fascinated by the Ghibli films and how much of it's, yes, fantasy, but also just a cultural, either folktale or mythology or things that do root back and I can tie into other shows and other episodes of other things. But I definitely did enjoy watching Promised Neverland, no matter how much crap I give it.
I'm turning them very slowly.
Good. Dr.
Slowly
Stone
but-
will be out down the line sometime.
Alex already tried that, and that was a bit much for her.
It is a bit much, but it's science. It's fun.
Science. But then they get overly dramatic about the most random of things, and I'm just like,
The facial expressions
Oh.
are definitely something like I would not show that show to somebody who's very new to anime.
yeah, that was I'm not there yet. I've only watched like 2 or 3. My first one was like One Punch Man, if you don't count Avatar: The Last Airbender. So, yeah, I still think it's One Punch Man, but like I like that show only because it's such like the anticlimactic, like you're rooting for him to finally be able to like fulfill his like dream. And he's just the most awkward and like random human being alive. And so I just thought it was hilarious, like the whole way through. But I really, really have not watched enough shows to have a true favorite. And
So Sailor Moon next.
yes.
Or
Or the volleyball one.
Oh, what about Your Lie in April? That would be Your Lie in April should be on the list for you.
Ooh, that one's good too.
We have to watch a Korean drama next because Meg already howinked us into watching more Fruits Basket than we thought we were going to. So
It's so good.
They're enjoying it.
we just finished the first season.
Yeah. Okay, guess what? I forgot that you get to meet Kakeru at the end.
You know. I love Kakeru.
Okay, anyway, let's talk about the actual show now.
Yeah.
This is a great episode. Okay, so once again, the episode starts where the last one left off. Al has a Philosopher's Stone, and we get to see one of, I think, the best fights in the show. Al grows back his limbs, and I don't know, it's like, it was so crazy. It's hard to follow. Like, he's like using the stone so fast, and like a few things that I saw was like he made like a sword that was like bendable, like it went around Pride's spike things, and then also he was like riding a dirt dragon.
Yep.
We think Ed's the
awesome.
dramatic one.
Yeah. Oh, shoot. Oh, I forgot.
It kind of reminded me of like when like Ed fights people, and I was like, wow, Al's getting so much better and like quick thinking, like quick movements.
Yeah, I think Al always had it in him, but now he's got an excuse to let it all loose. And I thought the manga panels were pretty cool too. Like I could tell exactly how the action was moving along, and that's really difficult to draw in like still frames, but she did a great job.
Yes. And then also another thing that I wanted to talk about here was you get like a really clear shot of Kimblee's hand symbols, and they like never explain them in the anime, but they do in the manga, or Ed does. So on his right hand he has a symbol for the sun, and on his left hand he has a symbol for the moon, and it means like light and darkness. And there's also, I think you'll see two triangles that are combined at one pointing upward and the other down, which is hexagram, and it represents all 4 elements.
No, super cool.
Yeah. And so, and basically in I guess in the manga panel, what Ed is saying is that, like, if you take out one of his hands, like if you slice it, he can't activate his transmutation circles.
Yep. But he can still use the Philosopher's Stones that he's got.
Yeah. So that kind of like complicates things.
Yeah.
Gives a whole new meaning to a tattoo.
Yeah. Right. And then as the fight kind of, I guess, winds down, Kimblee is like asked why aren't you using the Philosopher's Stone to get your bodies back? I mean, you have it. And he even uses the argument that it's in accordance with your ideals. Give up saving people to obtain your bodies. But Al, being the young, optimistic boy that he is, he wants to search for something that's not bound by laws. He wants to save people and also get his body back. He wants to do it all. And then Kimblee reveals that he has a stone in his mouth.
Of course it does. I think this is the coolest transition though that we've seen from this scene to the next with the Armstrongs. It's like Kimblee's about to blow stuff up and the rubble turns into Alex's projectiles. It was pretty cool.
Yes. So yeah, the Armstrongs are fighting Sloth, and they're actually working together. And they're like finding his weak spots, and they're like, yeah, we're winning, but then or I think they like get a hit on him, like, yeah, we like actually hurt him. But then he reveals his special ability, which
We've been watching too much Bungo Stray Dogs.
Yeah.
It is Kunikida's voice actor,
and,
though.
They all have special abilities. Like, that's the name for their powers. Yeah. And I was like, special ability, blah blah blah.
Rashomon.
Yeah,
he's so we've seen the other special abilities of the other homunculi, like Envy's ability to transform, or Lust's ultimate spear, Greed's ultimate shield. But Sloth is the fastest homunculi, which is just so ironic. But there's a really funny panel in the manga where Sloth has just blazed past them, and Alex and Olivier just stand looking at each other and pointing like, did you see that?
Real quick, I do appreciate that in Sloth, confirming his speed takes the slowest sentence of the show to be like, yes, I am the fastest homunculus.
That kind of reminds me of, the sloth from Zootopia.
Yes, okay, that's exactly what I was going to say.
He's speeding in his car, and then he rolls down the window, he's like, hey.
I wonder if they were inspired by this. But then Olivier trips, and it looks like she gets hit by Sloth. But we don't get to actually see that happen, because we go back to the fight that's happening in the woods, and Pride, so at the end of the first fight sequence, Al had like captured Pride again in a dirt dome thing, but he's escaped now. But Al is not finished yet. He causes another dust cloud, but Pride captures him. And at first Pride thinks that he's won, but then we see that that Al doesn't have the stone anymore. And he'd actually formed the dust cloud to see the direction of the wind, so that Al's help could stay out of
you gotta stay in downwind, because then they can't smell you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And they're like, oh shoot, we're in trouble, and you see Heinkel like come out and just latch onto Kimblee's neck.
It was a little bit hard to watch, honestly.
Yeah, it was kind of gruesome. And we see that Marco has a stone, and he used it to heal Heinkel, so that's how he was able to get up and do that. Then we go back to the city, and Riza, Roy, and Maria are in not their ice cream truck, but now their meat truck. But they can't find a way into the city. And it's super funny because Riza's like, she like cocks her gun. She's like, I'm ready to go. Like, I'm gonna take all these guys.
You want me to make a way into the
yeah.
to the building?
But then Mustang kind of hints that there is a secret way to get in, and they're gonna use that instead. And while they're doing that, Ed and the Chimeras and Scar are fighting the Immortal Legion. And this was, I don't know, this whole sequence of scenes is kind of interesting because like the intro for the show starts playing over these, which I don't know if that's ever happened in the show before. I mean, they'll start playing it at the end.
This was halfway through.
Yeah, but it wasn't even halfway through when it started playing. And they're working together and they tell them to like go for the legs. Cause are they like, I can't remember. Are they able to like heal themselves?
They're not regenerating, but they won't die. So if they're mobile, they can still attack you. So that's why you go for the legs. So you can just stop them from moving.
Yeah, like zombies.
Like zombies, exactly. But they're really fast zombies.
Yes. They're just creepy looking. And then we see Ed, he makes a spear, which has been so long since we've seen him make one of those. But also you can tell that he's like struggling to kill them because he knows, they were made with human souls. So it's very sad. Then we go back to the Armstrongs fighting, and Olivier has not been killed. Alex saved her. And it seems like they're ready to fight again, but then I don't know exactly what happens, but like
I think the floor caves in and they go to the level below, and that's how Olivier gets knocked out.
I was kind of confused what had happened. Yeah, she gets knocked out. And Sloth is like annoyed that he has to fight. He's like, I'm gonna kill you quickly, then sleep.
How is it that he's the most relatable character?
Right? I know, like everything that he says, I'm like, yeah.
I told Alex earlier the sloth is secretly my work spirit animal.
Yeah. And then they like switch around. They jump around so much in this episode because then they go back to the fight in the woods again. And Pride is about to attack Heinkel, but Heinkel like puts Kimblee in front of himself. And Pride won't attack him, which is interesting. But then he decides to go after Marco instead. And when he's about to do that, a car comes careening out of the woods and hits Pride and Al. And you're like, what the heck? And you see that it is Yoki driving the car and bawling his eyes out. So he's actually done something useful.
And then proceeds to rub it into everybody's face that he has done something useful and that he was the hero and he hit the strongest monkey line.
Yes. Yeah, he's like, it's all about the glory for me. He's like, okay, well, are you going to tell everybody that you were bawling like a child when you did that? Everyone else is annoyed too, because while they're like, everybody jumps in the car and they're speeding away, and I think it was one of I think it was Heinkel.
I think it was Heinkel.
Quit whining and drive. Like, that's enough. And then I think like the most savage line, Kimblee is dying and Pride just like stands over him and he's like, I think that color suits you. And he is
like blood soaking
little consequence. Yeah.
Oh, it's man.
Yeah.
I have to say though, that was some very good voice acting by Eric Vale, Kimblee's voice actor, because that was convincing, choking on blood noises. That was pretty good.
I don't know if you guys noticed, but Kimblee is also Yuki in Fruits Basket.
Oh.
And he plays like the main villain in another show called My Hero Academia.
Yeah, he's like he plays a lot of villains and then he's Yuki.
Kyo plays a villain too.
Yeah, he does. They both kind of have villain voices.
Yeah.
They do in Fruits Basket too.
Yuki is not a villain.
Yeah, neither is
Yuki is a
He's talking to
prince.
Kyo.
But Kyo's also
Antagonistic.
yeah.
Sure. All right, we'll talk about cat versus rats later.
Fine. And then Pride eats Kimblee. So he is
No more Kimblee.
yeah, I know. I was just devastated by this loss. Do you think that this was cannibalism? Because technically Pride's not human.
I don't think that counts, but I was just wondering what he gains by eating Kimblee. Does he get the alchemy powers?
Well, Lauren was saying, like, where did his stone go? Like, did he eat
yeah, he
his
probably got the stone too. So that's just more
Yeah.
power to him, I guess. Yeah, it makes sense that he wanted Kimblee then.
Mhm.
Whatever.
But also
Why would you
he
eat
had
stuff?
eaten gluttony, so he had like his we had a sense of
the
smell and also
appetite.
like his appetite too.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then after Kimblee gets eaten, we go back to the Armstrong fight. And Sloth has been stabbed by Alex, like not just stabbed. It's like I don't even
Impaled
know.
through the mouth.
Yeah,
It was
impaled.
disgusting.
I was like trying to figure out the other night, like what to even like call that thing.
Stalagmite.
Yes, Megan said stalagmite. It's pretty gross.
Dislodged.
Yes. And Olivier wakes up and Alex is very, very concerned for her.
They have like the best like sibling like squabble because like also the soldiers come in and like they're just having a sibling squabble in front of these soldiers who are just staring at them like what is even happening right now.
Yes, I don't know. I feel like we don't get to see like Ed and Al fight like that. I kind of like wish we did because that is like very, I don't know, just like so accurate. You like just relate to that. Yes, and then they hear gunfire and the Immortal Legion has arrived. And while that's happening, Sloth like literally like, bites through the stone thing and it's also really cool because he also starts to like regenerate and it's I don't know, I always love seeing that. Like when he like you can like see the muscles and bones
That
like,
is a cool animation thing.
like
yeah.
come together.
When you think there's no way that they could come back from it, and they do.
Right? I know, you're like, he's for sure dead. Like, no, he's not. And then Olivier is like talking to the soldiers who are pointing their guns at the Armstrongs and be like, what are you like? Do you want to work together and try to defeat these guys? Or are you gonna shoot me? And she like puts the soldier's gun to her own head. She's just so awesome. She's like, what are you gonna do?
I think she called him a coward too. Like, what are you gonna do, you coward?
Yes.
The gun
in the middle of a like fight for their lives, the guy had the safety on.
100%.
And then we get a very brief scene, which I'm pretty sure Megan said this, like, it's probably just to remind us that, like, they exist, but May and Envy are, like, fighting, and also there's, like, soldiers coming, and I think May, like, escapes.
Yeah, because Envy starts, like, eating the soldiers, and May was like, I don't think you understand what's happening here. Like, a horde full of zombies? No. Just dodging you? I can do that all day. And Envy just gets so frustrated with that.
I mean, he is getting more powerful by absorbing the soldiers, but May has a point, like, you're taking care of the multitude of enemies for me.
Yes. And then the final scene, Ed and the Chimeras and Scar, they're still fighting, taking down soldiers, but it's getting it's getting difficult because there's just like so many of them, and we see Ed, like a soldier, like jump above him and like he's about to be eaten, but then there's this huge explosion, and we see that Mustang and Riza have arrived.
Yes. And it's super funny in the manga because when the explosion happens, Ed is just blown away and the look on his face is hilarious. Like a very shocked look.
Yeah, and that is the end of the episode.
Yeah,
right.
so
extra
since that's for the extra things, since that's the end. Tracking, Ed made a spear, finally. And then for homunculi deaths, Sloth died twice.
Actually, one thing about the spear is, do we see it get broken? Because I think we've also been like counting how many seconds it's there,
no,
but I don't know if we see it.
He might just drop it. I think it just gets knocked out of his hand.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We'll count that as being unusable.
Okay. Anyway, animation expertise. So the animation really popped off. It makes up for last time in spades. From the camera movements to the choreography to the special effects, all the fight scenes were really well done, and I'm looking forward to seeing like them just pull out all the stops going forward for like the finale.
Mm-hmm. Yes, there's many awesome fights to come.
Yes. And then story elements analysis. So this is an example of a character showing their true power. Al, to this point, has been strong and smart and brave, but now he's really showing how capable he is.
Yes, like I said with the last episode and this episode, like this is where you're like, oh, Al is actually super awesome. He's very capable on his own. He's just cool. All right, do you guys have anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
I feel like in some ways these few episodes really highlight the distinctions within each character. Like the Armstrong sibling dynamic is in full height in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
And then Mustang with the multi-step plans and illusions, but then also the explosion in the end is just so Mustang. And even Ed and Al within their perspective fights are kind of showing off. And so it's just this like everyone's at their height as they build through this.
Yes.
Fight.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Honestly, this might be one of my top episodes just for like all the cool fights.
All right, you heard it here, folks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, top episodes. I didn't say top, but one of my top. All right. So now we get to share a favorite line of the episodes, and we'll let our guests go first. So
Alex here. My favorite episode or my favorite line is again with the Armstrong family, but Olivier, it was like when she got hit with like during the second fight and they're having their squabble and Alex just looks at her and goes, oh yeah, cause the soldiers with the guns appear.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just like, so they're here to basically kill me. And so Alex looks at her, and this is my favorite line. You can't die until all the paperwork is in place. Come on.
So epic.
I will be perfectly honest. I narrowed it down to 2.
All right.
Because I struggled. But one of them is in the very beginning in the Al and Pride fight. Pride thinks that they've succeeded and has Al wrapped up in the dust right before the Heinkel reveal. And Al says, I still think you're giving us humans too little credit.
Mm.
And it's this beautiful turn of a phrase for the reveal of, no, Al had the upper hand the entire time. Mm-hmm. And then the other one, because Sloth is wonderful, is the I'm dying. I hate dying. It's such a pain. Coming back is a pain. But then fighting all out is the biggest pain of all.
I love it.
It's good.
I might love Sloth a little bit too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. He's kind of a weird character because like everything he says, like you kind of love, but at the same time, it's like, why is he here? Like he's just kind of.
Mm-hmm. He's enslaved, basically.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
the
he
chains
is.
on his hands are proof, but yeah,
You
he's
can't
not.
hold him accountable for his actions.
Mhm.
He's not a free agent, so I can't hate him.
Yeah, yeah. All right, Megan, what was your favorite line?
Yeah, mine was from Al during his fight. Well, I say searching for possibilities that aren't bound by rules or laws, that's how humanity advances. And what was yours, Meg?
Mine came from Mustang. I'll post it, but I saw like a meme where somebody was saying like this was why the whole story was created, just for this line, just for this pun. And it came from Mustang when he bursts in to help Ed, and he's like, maybe I could lend you a hand, Full Metal.
That would have been funny if Ed shot back like, is that a disability joke?
All right. And then what did we learn in this episode?
We learned to go beyond plus ultra. Oops, wrong show. Anyway, just try every possibility and don't take the easy way out.
Mm-hmm. And then who pushed the story forward?
Al, of course. Oh my word, that kid is good. But Yoki gets an honorable mention because I feel like he deserves some credit for driving a car into the thick of battle.
Yes, I will allow this one time. You can get an honorable mention. All right, that is all we have. Thank you guys for joining us. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I had a blast.
And yeah, we will be back next week with another episode.
Yep.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.